Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Mindful Monday. Welcome to the space where we honor each other's presence. My name is Melissa, and I'm delighted to have you here today. And today we're going to be talking about two topics that we have all felt the victim of, or maybe we've also been the person to judge others. So today we'll be talking about judgment, as I've just said, and also expectation. So I think that as human beings, this is something that we all have felt through our lives. We've either been the person who is judging or the person who has felt judged. And really, on either end, it's not a very comfortable feeling. And even though sometimes when you do the judging, or I do the judging, or we do the judging, whichever way it can go, we don't realize that actually what we're doing is holding an expectation of somebody else, or we're setting a high expectation for ourselves. For example, if you are walking down the street and you see somebody that is not dressed the way that you think is appropriate, or maybe you see somebody with a piercing, or maybe I don't know, somebody's got a hairstyle that hasn't been in fashion, maybe like we say the 80s or something. We all fall victim to this, looking at other people and noticing what they're wearing or what they look like. I mean, I think that it's only fair to say we've all done it, and we are still doing it even if we realise it or not. And what this speaks to me is the expectation that we have of ourselves, more importantly. We put it outward, but actually when we are judging people, maybe as innocent as it is, down to a hairstyle or the way they dress or the piercings or the tattoos, it's really saying something to ourselves. So it all really starts with going back to you and doing the inner work. When we judge somebody else, it's because we have an expectation. And usually the expectation is that that person is not good enough if they're not wearing the appropriate clothing, or their hairstyle hasn't been updated, or somebody has too many piercings, or a very large tattoo. It really says something about ourselves. It says something about us as an individual. Even though we're all unique and we all have our own idea of what beauty is or how we should look, when we start to look at other people and we start judging them, really it really does say that we have these high expectations of people. And usually when we project that, like I've said earlier, it's because we have high expectations of ourselves. And we wouldn't feel comfortable in our own skin, not keeping ourselves up to a certain standard that is accepted in society. So today I invite you to see where you are judging. And this is not just for people on the street, where you are judging yourself. How hard are you on yourself? Do you find yourself judging yourself for the way you look? When you look in the mirror, is there some part of you that you don't feel comfortable about? And ask yourself the question, why? Has somebody said something to you maybe in the past that you still carry with you? Or maybe you don't feel good enough. Maybe there's something about you that doesn't feel like that it's your best part. You know, like it could be your weight, it could be your skin, your hair, and even down to other things. It doesn't even have to be the self as in the body. It could be maybe you're in a job where you feel that you could be doing better in there, that you're not working at your best. You know, so it can really go anywhere. This week I invite you to really look at yourself. Where are you judging yourself? Are you comparing yourself to your friends? Are you comparing yourself as a parent, if you're a parent? And what I have noticed, and I've done lots of research on this, and even just myself in my own general life, you know, I'm the type of person that I take notice of people, not in a judgmental way, but I like to see how people react in certain situations, you know, because this is what we do in mindfulness. We try to learn how people react and respond. And even down to parent-teacher meetings, you know. It can be really a place of judgment, you know. And I'm not saying the actual teachers, I'm talking about parents in general. You know, and the funny thing is, it's not really that they're judging their children, you know, on their grades or what the teacher is thinking. Usually it always stems back to the self. They start to have these expectations of themselves as parents, what they should be, and if their child is not performing up to scratch or up to the standard in school, they'll usually blame themselves for that. It's amazing how many parents take on that responsibility and decide to own it themselves. What could I have done better? Maybe it's my fault my son or my daughter is not getting the great grades. You know, so judgment really goes everywhere. And wherever there's a judgment, what I really invite you to think about today is to realise there is always an expectation, you know. And really, when it comes down to children with exams and parent-teacher meetings, you know, you really have to let go of the responsibility, you know, at a certain age. Of course, we have to encourage our children to study and we have to encourage them to do well in life. But really, we have to also give them the space to acknowledge that this is their responsibility. You can be their guide, you can help them, but they've also got to accept that they have to set up their own, expectations of themselves, and to not do it because you want it as a parent or the teacher wants it, to really understand that why they're doing these exams and what they want to do in life, which they're still very young, you know, so many people don't really know what they want to do, and they feel judged by the teachers and they feel judged by the parents after exams or after a parent-teacher meeting. So it's really important that we don't have high expectations of people, to just to be there and to just listen, you know, whether it's our children, our partner, maybe in a job, maybe they have a high expectation of themselves, sometimes too high, and things don't work according to plan, you know. So really we have to let go of judgment and let people be who they really are. And really it is either a case of fear or love, because when we're judging other people, our own children, the people on the street, our neighbour, I don't know, anybody, even in down to our workplace, you know, or more importantly, ourselves, you know, it really isn't doing any good for anybody. And really it comes down to fear of accepting the present moment. This is what it says to me, and it's also striving to be in the future, not being in the present moment, having high expectations. And there's nothing wrong with wanting good for yourself or for your children or for your friends, or for being, you know, dressing yourself up, looking your best. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're only doing it because you're afraid of being judged, then you really have to start to question yourself. Whose expectations am I fulfilling here? Is it the people out there, or is it the expectation of myself? And what I'm not saying here is that you don't have to wear makeup, or you don't have to do a nice hairstyle, or you don't have to wear a nice shirt or a nice suit or nice clothes. No, that is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that start to embrace being yourself, being comfortable in your own skin, and practice the moments, every present moment of how you are feeling. You know, first see the judgment. I think that's the best way we can start. When we start to notice that we're judging, maybe take a pause and just see the judgment. And then we feel it ourselves. Why am I judging the person? How does it make me feel to judge that person, how they are looking? Maybe it's a homeless person on the street. You see them and you're thinking they're not taking responsibility for their lives. You're judging them for the way they are dressed. You're comparing yourself to them. You know, it really can go anywhere. And what it always is the expectations we put on others. There's a reason why there's a person on the street. There's a reason why people aren't making the best grades, and it's usually not the expectation or the thought or the reason that we think, you know. So we need to be mindful of that. There is always a story behind each person, and we have to honour each other's presence by realising and accepting people for where they are in life. And of course, we can encourage people, we can help people, but we really have to start with ourselves. And that's really doing the inner work on figuring out where we're judging ourselves firstly. And then you start in your own home. How are you judging the people in your own home? Whether you're living with your parents, or you're living with your spouse or your partner, with your children, if you have any, or sisters or brothers. It really doesn't matter where you start. And the only way you can start really is by figuring out where it's come from, how you're feeling when you're in judgment. Because usually we do it so unconsciously, without thinking, that we don't realise that we're even doing it, you know. So this week I invite you to start to notice where you have judgments, and start to ask yourself, is there something in that judgment that is related to you? And not all the time, you know. It doesn't have to be like that all the time. It doesn't always go back to us. But there's definitely an expectation that you are holding on that person that you're watching, and that is not up to your expectation, or yourself, why you're not up to your expectation, you know. And the message I want to give to you all today is accept where you are right now. And with each present moment, you know, start to notice how you're feeling. First we have to see it, then we have to feel it, and then we can heal it, more importantly. So if it's the case that we see where our judgments are, and we start to feel them, and we start to notice, okay, I'm judging that person on the street because I'm not 100% happy in myself. There are certain things about me that I'm not happy with, and they're not up to standard in my mind, that I have higher expectations for myself. So really reflect, you know, and start to notice where you have these high expectations for yourself. And first, you know, start to do your own judgments. Start to notice where you're judging people and judging yourself, more importantly. And I do find that it's much easier to catch yourself judging others. You know, it's amazing. Even when we practice something like this, because I have been practicing this now for a few weeks, and what I noticed was, the more I started to notice when I was judging others, and then bringing it back to myself, I started to notice where it was coming from. And then I got better at catching myself when I was judging myself, you know. So I invite you this week to maybe start realising when you're judging others, and through that start noticing when you're judging yourself. Because we're all perfect in our own way, and we all love to be accepted, you know. And the thing is also that when we accept ourselves, we are more in line to accept others for where they are. And of course, if there's somebody there that we need to help, or that you know, are going through a difficult time, we can be there. But they need to take responsibility for themselves, you know, and their expectations of themselves, you know. And if people's lives have slipped, like we'll say the person we were talking about earlier, if there was somebody homeless on the street, like I said, there's always a story behind everybody, you know. And unfortunately, you know, our expectation here, as in society, we expect people to just pick themselves up. And the truth is, it's not as easy as it looks, you know. And that we need to be more mindful that people are where they are for a reason, and their presence matters also. So guys, I'm going to leave you with this thought for this week, and I hope that you got value from this. And I'd like to also say thank you to everybody who emailed me last week for the mind heart gut connection. I had some amazing feedback, and it was lovely to practice with you. And I won't be mentioning any names, as I'm keeping it confidential, but if there's anybody else out there who would like to practice this with me, it's basically realising our own connection to self through the mind, heart and gut connection. It's amazing for making decisions, but not only that, it's amazing for giving us clarity in our own lives. So if you feel that this is something you'd like to practice and you have some free time, please email me. I will drop my email address below. And also, if you have felt judged, or if you have high expectations on certain areas in your life, or if you have expectations of other people in your life, and you want to share with us here, please drop it in the comments. And if you have noticed yourself judging yourself or judging others, and you've caught it and you have seen it, you have felt it, and you've healed it, more importantly, please share with us. We would love to hear from you. And with all that said and done, guys, I'm going to say goodbye for now. I'm going to give you all a great big kiss, and I'll talk to you soon.